to say it, so I'm just going to say it. I'm teaching a comprehensive course on Microsoft Excel. But let me tell you, Excel is a magician's hat that pulls out solutions to problems you never thought possible. As a former beta tester wizard for Microsoft, I've created more spreadsheets than stars in the sky. Come with me on a journey that will blow your mind. We're going back to a time when accounting was done with, well, sand. This is 5,000 years ago when the ancient Mesopotamians ruled the world, and clay tablets were the ultimate tech. They invented writing and spreadsheets before spreadsheets even existed, with wedge-shaped writing called cuneiform pressed into clay tablets. They tracked their trades, taxes, and loans like it was nobody's business. Ah! I think I'll add new shoes to the miscellaneous expenses column. And then came the paper ledger, the smartphone of the Middle Ages. The first tech revolution that changed the game for accountants and merchants everywhere. It allowed them to record several hundred financial transactions per day, a step up from clay tablets. And just when it seemed like spreadsheets had hit their limits, a new technology emerged. Computers with raw power at your fingertips. Programs like VisiCalc and Lotus 123 allowed for thousands of calculations per day. But with great power comes great responsibility. The undo function was yet to be invented. And today, Excel can do billions of calculations per day. So next time you open up the app, remember the journey it took to get here. And who knows where we'll go from here. Join me and unlock your full potential to wield thousands of years of history like a true wizard. Welcome to our 265th weekly webcast. Now, if this is the first time you're joining us, welcome. If you've been with us before, welcome back. And so the way this call works is this is an AMA, meaning ask me anything, like you see on Reddit. You can ask me business questions, career questions, investing questions, any questions so I can humbly help you take your career, your company, etc. to the next level. So without further ado, let's begin. Please type all of your questions here. Brian just typed, I saw a video of you and Luca on the large Times Square screen. Yeah, that was earlier this week. So Luca Anison, who I partnered with to create a number of AI courses and a Python course, was recognized by one of the top publications in the world. He's one of the top AI instructors on the planet. He's got a great consulting firm called Data Blues that's taking off as well. And so we got recognition there in Times Square. And I'm very humbled to say that he listed me as one of his mentors. Yeah, he put his father first, which I love the guy. And then he put me up as well. So thank you for noticing that. So please keep typing your questions. What I'll do in the meantime is I'll talk about a couple of things. Number one, I'll very quickly discuss a new product of mine called the Diamond Accelerator program. Number two, what I'll do is I'll talk about some incredible presentation tips that can change your life, because one presentation, one meeting, one small moment in life can change everything for you. I'll also talk about the impact of ETFs when it comes to Bitcoin and why this is incredibly positive. And then what I'll do, if we have time, is I'll talk about a bunch of investing tips, as well as my story on 9/11 in a lot of detail. I was in New York City working at Goldman Sachs, etc. So without further ado, I guess what I'll do is I'll kick it off with presentation tips. So when you present, A lot of people will forget what you say, but your delivery is of paramount importance. And Maya Angelou once said, people may not remember what you said, but they'll never forget the way you made them feel. And so delivery is really important. The medium is often more important than the message. Now, when I was younger, I don't remember what the teacher said, but I certainly remember the props that the teacher had, or my buddy's props they brought in for show and tell. So the first tip I want to give you all is bring a prop. And you can even get a prop custom made if you want to. I'll talk about this in a second. Or you can buy something of historical consequence on eBay, right? An expensive, old item like an old dollar bill or an old bond if you're talking about finance. Then you sell it back on eBay after the presentation. So it kind of costs you a 5 or 10% restocking fee. So this here is for a presentation I gave years ago where I was talking about personal finance. And I kicked it off with this. 78% of people that played in the NFL within 2 years of retiring are broke. We're here today to talk about personal finance and how to materially increase your net worth. So props are really important. And in terms of Bitcoin, I know everybody's talking about Bitcoin ETFs these days. Let me use a couple of props and explain why this is a big deal. And I'm going to also incorporate live here storytelling, which is a lot of fun. So back in 2004, the gold ETF was created. And this is fake gold. The gold ETF was created. And what that means is you can go to GLD, ticker GLD, and you can buy gold and pay a very small fee. And that was a huge deal for investors because a lot of times when you buy gold, you might go downtown and buy it in a large city. You're not sure if it's real or not. But when the gold ETF was introduced in 2004, tons more people started purchasing gold using the product, the ETF product, ticker GLD. And this is a big deal because you can get in and out quickly if need be. Now, recently, the SEC blessed the use of Bitcoin in ETFs. And this is a huge deal commensurate with gold in 2004. So the way it works with Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies in general, as many of us know, is we have to get a product called a Ledger Nano or another USB hardware type cold storage wallet. And you got to set these up. And there's a gazillion passwords. It's so complicated. And right at the last second before you place your order to buy Bitcoin, you cut your order in half because you're just not confident the system works. Well, similar to gold, purchasing Bitcoin is now friction-free because the SEC has enabled or allowed Bitcoin to be purchased as part of an ETF. And so people are going to be able to buy Bitcoin much quicker and sell it much quicker and with much more confidence, which is another reason I'm incredibly bullish on Bitcoin longer term. Okay. All right. We talked about props. Next thing you can use when you're giving a presentation is quotes, especially when you forget what you're going to say next. And by the way, nobody knows what's on your agenda. So it's cool if you forget what to say. So here's one quote you can use. And you don't have to bring a boulevard like this that I had custom made. Just have this in your pocket ready. The two most important days in your life are number one, the day you're born, and number two, the day you find out why. We're here today to talk about my brand new product, which is yada, yada, yada. So you can always use a quote as a crutch, so to speak. Speaking of crutches, if you're not sure what to say next, first of all, nobody's going to know because only you have practiced your speech. So you can look at your slides to see what the next bullet point is or skip the bullet point. No one's going to know. But you can also use crutch or filler words such as in terms of, moving on to, or if you're rambling, the bottom line is. Or if somebody asks you a question and you're not sure how to respond to it, and you can use this for interviews as well. Another crutch is frameworks, like this, and you make sure that you turn off your cell phone before you start your presentation too. I'm an idiot. It's fun doing these things live though. So you can use a framework as well. So if somebody asks you a question during the Q&A part of a presentation, you can say, it's a great question. Let me analyze this using a SWOT framework, meaning strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. I'll kick it off with the strengths. The strengths are yada, yada, yada. Moving on to, these are all crutch frameworks. transition words. Moving on to the opportunities, which are yada, yada. The weaknesses are as follows, and the threats are this. And if you're rambling, you can always say, and the bottom line is. Okay, so these are frameworks, crutches that you can use. All right. Next up, I've got here how to prepare. So I don't recommend practicing your presentation the morning of, but there's a couple of cosmetic things I want to talk about. Now, if you're giving a Zoom presentation, having an incredible video and audio setup will do more for your career than a nice Italian suit will do for your career. So here's a couple of Zoom tips. Okay. So with your camera, if you have a camera that allows you to adjust settings on screen, I recommend doing this. Okay, I have one of these devices here. And you can buy a device like this on Amazon. I'm happy to show you the link. And when you set up your camera, and you've probably seen this green Ghostbuster thing here, you want to make sure that when you put this over your face, and this can be a white piece of paper, doesn't matter. When you put this over your face, you want to make sure that right here over your face is around 80. Okay, so you can adjust your camera settings to make sure that it's around 80, right? You can increase the ISO or decrease it. There's a bunch of other levers that you can do. And you have to do this quite often because the human eye is always wrong when it comes to color and also when it comes to exposure. Let me turn this off here. Okay. In terms of the microphone to use, what I recommend doing is I recommend using this microphone right here, which is the Shure microphone used by Joe Rogan. And I can provide you with links as well. And I don't get any affiliate commissions, but I can provide you with links on where to get this product and how to set it up. Okay. Another thing is when it comes to cosmetics, what you want to do is you want to get makeup as well. And this was new to me years ago until I went on television and somebody put makeup on me. And the reason you want to do this is your face can be somewhat shiny. Okay. So what you do is you go to the drugstore, if you've never bought this stuff before, and ask somebody there to get makeup that matches your face, your color, your skin. So you go like this, and then what you do, and you lean over, otherwise it gets in your clothes. I've been doing this for years, so I finally figured it out. And I run into this quickly because my nose is massive. See, yeah, okay. So you get rid of the shine, okay? And ideally, you want to put on a towel while you're doing this. Then what you do is you get one of these things, of course, and especially if you have dandruff, which I do, and you're wearing a dark color like I do, you want to get rid of all that using this. In terms of your voice, if you find that you lose your voice, which happens to me sometimes, you can buy this product here. It's called Vocal Zone, which works exceptionally well. All right, let's talk quickly about body language. When you're presenting, you want to make sure you make eye contact with everybody in the audience. Okay. And when you're using Zoom, what you want to do is every now and then you want to look away a little bit. Never look up because it's disrespectful. If you look down, it shows that you lack confidence, unless that's your demeanor, which is just how I am. And I read all the questions down there. Now, Larry King, God bless him, passed away a couple of years ago. He was probably the best interviewer in history. And he said whenever he interviewed somebody, what he would do is every now and then he would look left or look right. Because if you just stare at someone the whole time, it can be somewhat intimidating. Another body language tip is make sure you're open. Don't cross your arms like this. It shows that you're closed and not inviting. Yeah. Okay, great. And use your hands a lot as well. And if you want, you can do a search on President Obama's 2004 DNC speech. It was probably the best speech ever given. And he uses his hands a lot. He's the best public speaker alive today. Although I didn't vote for him, I do love him dearly. Yeah. All right. Next up, when it comes to slides, I never want you to have more than 3 bullet points on each slide. And Steve Jobs would always talk about the rule of 3. So, for example, a beautiful picture usually has 3 layers. You know, it can be the beach, the sky, and the ocean, for example. So never have more than 3 bullet points per slide. And the best point of reference for a slide deck, if you want to raise money or give a great presentation, is do a search for the Airbnb pitch deck. And it was 12 slides that they used to raise a lot of money from venture capital firms. And try to use images if you can and not bullet points. Yeah. Okay. Last thing I want to talk about is fear. Tony Robbins said that fear stands for false evidence that appears real. It's all in your mind. And you got to tell yourself right before the presentation or the interview, whatever it is, that, you know what? I just don't care. I don't care how this goes. I'm not saying be rude or disingenuous, but I want you to tell yourself you don't care to the extent that you can just be yourself. You're not nervous when you're around your friends, your aunts, your uncles. In fact, if you have an informational meeting or an interview and you're nervous, just tell yourself you're meeting with your aunt or your uncle. And I don't want you to care at all. And we are always our own worst enemies. And so I drew this as part of my MBA degree program years ago. I'm not an artist, but that's okay. And this is probably the best chart you'll ever see in your entire life, if I can center it here. But as Pablo Picasso said, if you strive for perfection, you'll never reach it. So that's good enough. So here in this chart, you've got age on this axis here. And on the y-axis is give a darn. So when you're younger down here, you don't care what people think of you. You just don't care. You have meltdowns in restaurants, whatever. And then when you're older people don't have confidence problems either. They don't give a damn, right? I say it in a nice way. The problem is when you're here, okay, when you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, whatever, you care what people think. And I call this the triangle of despair. And you need to avoid this at all costs in order to take your career to the next level. You got to live at this level here, which all the best entrepreneurs do, because they don't care what other people think. I want you to be the same way. It's kind of like when you go on a date, and I shouldn't be giving dating advice because I'm the worst dater ever. My wife's way out of my league. But when you go on a date, if you're not yourself, like if you're robotic, you're acting, whatever, you're too rigid, it's not going to work. And you know exactly what I'm talking about. The same thing with interviews. When you go to an interview, you're giving a presentation, do the same thing. Just say, I just don't care. I'm just going to be myself. Last thing I'll say on this topic is this. That was me buying time. Before your interview or your presentation, the morning of, I want you to read the news relevant to that company, just in case somebody asks a question and you want to pull in something, contemporary in your answer. Okay. And if you have additional questions, please let me know. And thank you, as always. All right. Let me go through the questions here. Okay, Rubina, thank you so much. And please don't share your password for my website here. Yeah. I'm going to make sure that password is changed immediately. Okay. All right. All right. Give me 1 second here. All right. Peter, good to see you from Guyana. Welcome. Brian, great to see you. David, how are you? Greetings from Ohio. New student and loving every minute so far. Thank you so much. Hope you join us again next week. Appreciate it. And thank you everybody for your patience last week. Last week I was away giving a couple of keynotes. And by the way, when I gave these keynotes, these presentations, I did the exact same methodology. I told myself I don't care. And I used a lot of quotes as well. Yeah. All right. And then Jahanzeb wrote, I have to develop an NDA, meaning a non-disclosure agreement, for a client for which I'm preparing a business plan. He asked me to provide him with my national identity card. Is it okay to share my national identity card copy? Yeah. I would not share anything related to social security numbers, social insurance numbers, etc. Quick side note. For those of you starting companies, I don't recommend, and talk to a lawyer first, I don't recommend having an NDA. And the reason is because if you're trying to raise capital and you want to get a meeting, and they're doing you a favor, whoever's meeting with you, don't say, please sign an NDA, right? Otherwise, they won't take the meeting or there's a trust issue. And you don't have to give the secret sauce. You can just kind of present from a high-level perspective. The NDA usually comes once you sign the term sheet, meaning the non-binding legal document that stipulates that venture capital or high net worth investors might invest. Yeah. Then the lawyers take care of all the other stuff. All right. Next up, Robert wrote, in an interview, what questions would you ask to spot and avoid a toxic environment, a bad boss, or a dead-end career? Yeah, great question. I want you to go with your gut, first of all. There's that saying that George Bush Jr. butchered, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. So you go with your gut. And if somebody comes across as being shady to you or not trustworthy, they're not trustworthy. or the yes, they are shady. Go with your gut. And we all know what I'm talking about because we've all gotten screwed over in our lives, in relationships, friendships, etc., when our gut told us not to trust somebody. Another thing you can do is the following. So I worked at one of the largest hedge funds in the world. And what they did was they had 25-year CIA and FBA veterans come in to train us to tell if somebody is lying or misleading. And here are the tips. And these 4 tips, at least 2 of the 4 tips have to be there for you to maybe think they could be lying. Tip number 1 to tell if somebody is lying. If they break eye contact a lot when they're answering a question, a certain specific question. Okay. Tip number 2, if they touch their face when they're answering a question, they could be lying. Tip number 3, if they ramble on and on and on, like I am today, then they could be lying. And you see this with children especially. If I ask my kids, did you take that cookie from the cookie jar? And one of them says, no, how could I? I'm so short. I have to go and get the ladder over there. There's no way I could do it. They're lying. And the last way to tell somebody is lying or misleading you in an informational interview or any aspect of life is if they start shaking their foot or their hand a bit, unless they had too much caffeine, which is certainly the case with me today. And that's what a lie detector test kind of tests for is as well. So make sure that at least 2 or 3 of those 4 items are valid in order to tell if somebody is lying. And I see people lying on television all the time. Right? A lot of people being interviewed on television, I can tell where they're lying. And when I worked at a big hedge fund, they trained us this way to tell if someone's lying in case a CEO was misleading us. By the way, the way you know that a CEO is lying is when they move their lips. Okay, sorry. I made it 20 minutes without bad dad humor. Yeah. Another thing you can do to check the corporate culture of the company is go to Glassdoor.com. And Glassdoor.com, it's great because you can figure out how much money you're going to make as well. All salaries are disclosed there, as well as the corporate culture. And it's graded too, usually out of 100. So for example, Salesforce.com has a great corporate culture, has a rating of 96 out of 100. Yeah. Okay. All right. Hopefully that's helpful. If you have any follow-up questions, as always, please let me know and thank you. Okay, moving on to Jose. Hey, Jose, how are you? Great to see you. And Jose, thank you so much for that Christmas gift that you sent to my family. God bless you. I love you. Thank you. And Jose graduated from my Platinum MBA program back in 2019. He started. Yeah. Good friend. So Jose wrote, hi, Chris. So glad to be here. God bless you for all the wisdom and care you provide. Thank you, brother. And please join us today at 11:20 a.m. for the weekly 2-hour Gold and Platinum Zoom office hours. Yeah. It's the same Zoom address you used before. Thanks. And of course, you can ask questions here too. I just want to see you. I missed you. All right, next up, DF wrote, what are your thoughts on the new president of Argentina in terms of his economic policies? I don't know at all. But you can certainly tell what investors are thinking by looking at the debt instruments, meaning the bonds of Argentina. And I remember back in 1994, we had the Latin American debt crisis. Where I think it was Argentina defaulted on their bonds. So you can always look at interest rates and interest rates expectations to see the confidence that investors have in a new political leader. Yeah. And then yesterday, Jerome Powell, the head of the Federal Reserve in the United States, meaning the manager of the Store of Money in America, said a couple of things that got the market to rise materially. He said, number 1, basically, we're not in a recession. Yay. And number 2, we are going to cut interest rates this year. So you can always look at the yield curve or interest rates for a given country to find out the confidence that investors have in that administration. Okay. Now, if anybody wants to invest in Argentina or any country, the best way to do it is to go to one of my favorite websites, which is etfdb.com, etfdatabase.com. Then you click here on ETF Screener, okay? And you can screen based on the type of fund it is, geography, etc. So if I click here on geography, if you wanted to invest in Argentina, what you could do is click on Argentina down the map or click right here, and then you can get exposure within your portfolio to Argentina. This is me buying time while it's loading here. And when you're checking out the ETFs, there's 104 of them listed here. What you want to do is you want to look at the fee structure. Okay, make sure you're paying well under 1% in fees per year. And you also want to check to see what the holdings are. Yeah. Okay. And if anybody wants me to look at any ETF or stock in real time, do technical analysis or fundamental analysis, valuation analysis, I'm more than happy to do so. And please do not buy mutual funds. They're a scam. They're a scam because there are lots of hidden fees, and the fees are around 5% per year. A lot of them are hidden fees, and you pay more in taxes. My go-to investment when I'm not sure what to buy is always ticker VOO. And that's the S&P 500 ETF with fees of only 3 pennies per $100 per year. That's 0.03%. And the S&P is up close to 15% every year on average. All right. Next up, Jose wrote, what is the best way to offset capital gains in the crypto market? Is it better to set up a trust, offset it from harvesting capital losses from other assets? The intention will be to lower taxes. Yeah. So what I did years ago is I set up an IRA so that I can put all my cryptocurrencies into it. And it was probably one of the smartest things I ever did. It cost me a little bit of money to set it up with a lawyer, but it's a tax-free vehicle. It's great. And of course, when you take the money out years later, it's a lot more, but you pay taxes then. So I would think about getting an IRA set up for that. In terms of taxes and cryptos, please be careful. And the only advice I want to give you right now is go to YouTube, do a search on NBC interview cryptocurrencies and me, and I'll explain what not to do when it comes to cryptocurrencies and taxes. Yeah. All right. Next up, Jahanzeb wrote, how can we have the information like the name of investors, banks, or angel investors for fundraising? Yeah, it's a little bit tough to do. You can do an advanced search based on where you are in the world for angel investors or seed investors, etc. I know offhand probably one of the best ones is Band of Angels here in the San Francisco Bay Area. Then what you do is you find out who the executives are that work at Band of Angels, for example. And then you go to LinkedIn. Make sure you have an amazing LinkedIn profile. And then set up informational meetings with people that work at Band of Angels or other investors, other angel early stage investors. And list 2 things you have in common with them in the email. And don't say why. And they'll take the meeting. For example, let's say you're from the same location as they are and you went to the same school. John, hope all is well. I also went to McGill University. I'm also from Mississauga, and I live here in the Bay Area. Please let me know if you have time for a quick coffee or a Zoom call. Thanks, Chris. That's it. You don't say why you want to meet with them. And there's nothing unethical about that. But they're going to be curious why you want to meet, and they'll probably say yes. And if there are people out there that think, Chris, that's crazy, who the heck would say yes to me? Well, think of it this way. If in 20 years from now, you're 20 years more successful than you already are today, and somebody reaches out to you that's really similar to you, that maybe went to the same school as you, is in the same organization as you, etc., would you take that meeting? Of course you would. All you have to do is ask. Asking you'll receive. It's prophetic. It's been true since the beginning of time. Your network is your net worth, and relationships are more important than product knowledge. And anytime you see a job opening online, I don't want you to just apply, because the likelihood you'll get that job is 1 out of 250. And the person that gets that job ultimately knows somebody at the company. So I want you to have an amazing LinkedIn profile. And if you're in my MBA degree program, silver, gold, platinum, or diamond, now my new one, I'll create your entire LinkedIn profile for you in the higher tier products. And I'll help you get those informational meetings. Yeah. And I guess what I can do is I'll very quickly talk about my new product. So if you go to my website, harounmba.com. My browser crashed earlier today. I apologize. And then you click here on MBA FAQs. If you scroll down, I've got 4 products. Okay. Now, the first product is the Silver MBA program. It's hundreds and hundreds of hours. You can start today. It's 60% off for a limited time. It's like Netflix. Then my next gold and platinum class, it's a 1-year program, starts on May 6th. Okay, it's going to be every Monday and Tuesday for 1 year starting on May 6th from 9 a.m. until noon Pacific time. And the content here is the same as here, except I teach them live. And I do a couple hundred hours of live Q&A and group coaching. Platinum, you get 3 hours of group coaching. And then over here, my brand new product, it's called Diamond. If you're interested, you can book a call, a Zoom call with me to discuss if it's of interest to you and if I can help you. This is called the Diamond Growth Accelerator. And there's over 20 hours of one-on-one meetings with me, a customized curriculum, and I walk through walls to help you take your business or career to the next level or your money back. And these all have money back guarantees. Okay, let me get back to questions though. All right, next up, Devon wrote, hey Devon, hey Chris, if we want to choose between China and Hong Kong markets, which one is better, please? Yeah, it used to be separate. Now it's the same basically. And I would not have more than 20% of your capital in any one particular market. Yeah, and there are risks in China as well. Now, a lot of Chinese companies I invested in the past, disclosure was not great. It is getting better. And that's why you want to limit exposure overseas in China, for example. And I want you to have more than 5% of your liquid net worth in any one stock. And as I just mentioned, no more than 20% of your liquid net worth in any one region of the world. Yeah. And I prefer the Chinese companies that have ADRs, very liquid ADRs here, like Baidu, for example, because when you list in the United States through an ADR, American Depositary Receipt, there are very strict guidelines that the SEC mandates in terms of disclosure. You can always go to sec.gov to read up on the financial statements of any company, which I teach in a lot more detail in my MBA programs. All right. Give me 1 second here. All right. And then Devon wrote, why do some companies merge for value unlocking, and how does unlocking value work? Yeah, usually it's not through mergers unless it's a merger of equals. And what you want to look at when one company buys another or two merge, what you want to look at is this deal accretive or dilutive? Accretive means will the valuation of the company go down and earnings grow? Okay, and a great example of a merger of equals was in 2005. I participated when I worked at a hedge fund on the merger of GameStop and Electronic Boutique. So GameStop, we all know, ticker GME. Electronic Boutique had the ticker of ELBO. And when I worked on the merger model of both of them, I found the deal was very accretive because you don't need two CFOs. You don't need, when you combine companies, you don't need two CMOs. You don't need two C-level executive in any capacity. You can save money there. Also, it gave GameStop and Electronic Boutique more pricing power when it came to signage, signs outdoors. And also, there wasn't that much overlap in terms of the location of Elbow, meaning Electronic Boutique stores, and GameStop stores. So it was an accretive deal, really helped with earnings, and it gave the company more pricing power because they eliminated a very big competitor. Yeah. Okay. And when you create a merger model, and I teach how to do this in my MBA degree program, it's pretty simplistic. You take the financial statements, you combine them, and then you cut wherever there's duplicates. So you don't need to have, as I mentioned earlier, two CMOs, two CEOs, two customer support offices set up, etc. Yeah, and I can go through that in more detail if you want me to. Okay. And then Devon wrote, where can somebody look to sell their company if it's not listed? Yeah, it's very hard because of liquidity mandates. What you can do is you can call private equity firms. And you don't want to call the large ones if you're trying to sell a company where the valuation is only a couple $100,000 or a couple million. You want to do a search for mid-market private equity firms. What you can also do is you can work with boutique investment banks. Now, I've pitched lots of deals to Goldman Sachs when I worked in venture capital, and they never want us to look at any deal where the value wasn't at least $500 million because it won't move the needle for them earnings-wise. So you want to do a search for mezzanine or boutique investment banks and talk to them as well. And they'll probably take a 5% fee or so, kind of like buying and selling a house with a real estate agent to help you sell your company. Yeah, and you can also network as well. And if I think you might be in my gold or platinum class, you can ask me during office hours today. I'll take a look at your LinkedIn profile and I'll teach you how to get one-on-one set up with potential buyers of your company. Yeah. Okay. All right. And then you apologize for too many questions. No, please. That's what I'm here for, man. I live for this. Thank you. And then, hey, Phil Germany, how are you? Phil wrote, your give a damn chart is so true. As I've gotten older, my level is near zero. I love it. I love it. Yeah. Think about all the time we waste thinking about what other people think of us. What a horrible waste of time that is. Things are never as bad as you think. And, Winston Churchill once said, and I love quotes, as you know. So Winston Churchill once said, I met a man on his deathbed who talked about all the worries he had in his life, none of which came true. And Dale Carnegie, my favorite author ever, he said, it's not work that kills us, it's worry. And it's so true. Things are never as bad as you think. And I'm a spiritual person to the extent that I don't worry about career stuff. I never have. And I don't, because I always tell myself, God already knows what's going to happen. And look, if we have career setbacks in our lives, and we all have them, they're not setbacks. Because if you have a great attitude about it, it might actually be a stepping stone and not a roadblock. And you might look back upon career failures years from now and say, thank goodness that happened to me, because I was being guided in a different direction in life. And the most successful people have been fired. You're not a real person until you've been fired. Yeah. Michael Bloomberg got fired when he worked at Merrill Lynch, and he certainly got his revenge. He started Bloomberg, his financial services empire. He's a billionaire, as we all know. And there's so many stories just like that. Yeah. Don't worry. God already knows what's going to happen. That should put you at ease. Okay. Okay, Rubina, thanks for that comment. Rubina, tell you what, regarding that issue, just join me today, please. See the email I sent you. Join me today at 11:20. I think you're a past gold member for a 2-hour Zoom call, and I'll answer all your questions there. Yeah. Okay, Emilio, how are you? Great to see you. All right, and then Jordan wrote, I have a question on business plans. Yeah, go for it, please. And I actually don't see your question here. By the way, if you paste a link here, for some reason, YouTube strips it out. Yeah. Okay. Renveer, good to see you from Mauritius. You wrote, how good are you today? Oh, I love that question. I'm always great, thanks. It's always good to see you. All right. Next up, Yasmin wrote, hi from Istanbul. How are you? Great to see you. We actually just translated one of my courses on Udemy called an entire MBA 1 course into Turkish. And it's going to be coming out in a couple of months. Yeah. Yeah. And thank you, Luca Anderson, for setting up my business partner. Okay. Renbeer wrote, I started hearing about NFTs again. Wonder what is the equivalent of VU for crypto, something not correlated to Bitcoin. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I only invest in the highest quality cryptocurrencies. And since day one, I've always disclosed what 4 cryptos I own. So I own Ethereum because it's a platform. Okay. And you always want to own the road. I also own Bitcoin, as you know, Litecoin and Ripple. Yeah. Okay. All right. And then you wrote, started hearing about NFTs again. Yeah. Yeah. So whenever interest rates go down, or expectations of interest rates are to go down, more speculative investment classes do well. If you look back in the early 1980s when interest rates were about 20%, nobody bought stocks, right? Everybody put their money in the bank, and everything speculative, like startups, didn't get any funding at all. So as interest rates go down, more speculative stocks do well because people borrow money, they lever up to invest, and they're less likely to want to own bonds. And that's why people are starting to talk about NFTs as well. Yeah. Oh, a lot of times people will ask me, sell me this pen, right? You've seen that before. All right, I'm going to teach you how to sell you this pen. Okay, ready? It's an NFT. All right, that was no more jokes today, I promise you. But if you meet me in real life, I'm a tiny man. Okay, just gotta put that out there. All right, now if you're going to invest in NFTs, make sure to look at the underlying supply. As with any asset class, supply is the only thing that matters in the long run. That's why a lot of people like to invest in gold or commodities, because there's a scarcity of it. And it's like my grandfather, God bless you, Grandpa, I miss you. He used to say, Chrissy, buy land, they're not making it anymore. So make sure the supply of the NFT is quite low before buying. My favorite NFT investments are baseball cards and basketball cards too. Okay, next up, Renvir wrote, can you break down how you got invited to NBC? Yeah. So I created a cryptocurrency course, which got a bunch of social proof. And then somebody at Udemy actually introduced me to somebody at NBC. Yeah. And what I did recently, and what I recommend all of you do as well, is I sent emails to the top 100 journalists in the world that cover technology, side hustles, as well as online education. And I offered myself up as a resource. And I kept the email pretty simplistic. Joanne Hopal as well. I work in the ed tech market. I believe that in 50 years, fewer than 50 universities will still exist because of online education. If you'd like to use me as a resource for any of your articles, please let me know. I'd be more than humbled to help. Thanks a lot, Chris. So I sent that out. Actually, I sent it out last June. And I got a lot of media attention that way as well. So I was profiled in Entrepreneur Magazine. They interviewed me recently because of that email. Yeah. And let me see if I can actually show you the email. All right. I'm going to go to Gmail here. I'll show you the script of it. Let me see if I can find it. I think it was Amanda, or it might have been Amber. Give me 1 second. I'm going to show you exactly what to type. Here it is here. Good. Yeah. So this was the email. So I sent this email out to Amanda Breen, and she works at Entrepreneur Magazine. And I wrote this here. I hope all's well. Enjoyed reading your article, yada, yada, yada. Put all this stuff in about me, all that stuff, whatever, as a resource. And the subject line was resource offer for any article. And I sent that last year, okay? September, actually, this one. And then she replied in February saying, I'd love to talk to you about a story. And then we set up a time. She interviewed me. And then Entrepreneur published that story about me. You know, one of my great platinum students told me that he grew up in the ghetto and that closed mouths don't get fed. So you always have to ask. Yeah. Ask and you'll receive. All right. And the head of the Wall Street Journal, I think it was a technology section, emailed me recently as well. So I'm going to be doing an interview there as well soon. Okay. And you got to be also a little bit controversial in your marketing. And that's how you get free PR. You have to be tasteful, though. You know, for example, Mark Benioff, who started Salesforce.com, big cloud computing company, biggest employer here in San Francisco. He started it back in 1999. I remember meeting with him a couple of times. And he was very controversial because he said software is dead. In fact, his logo was software with a line through it. And a lot of journalists were like, that's controversial. You know, WTF, why the face? And so he got a lot of meetings that way. And he actually, you can read his book called Above the Clouds, Mark Benioff's book. In that book, he mentioned he has friends that work at the top media companies. So he offered up his controversial advice on cloud computing to the top 100 journalists in the world. That's what he wrote in his book. Sir Richard Branson does it as well with respect to declaring war on Coca-Cola when he rented a tank and drove into Times Square with Virgin Cola on top of his tank to declare war on Coca-Cola. If you're going to do this, you have to be tasteful. You know, like Elon Musk is very controversial, as we all know. Let me ask you this. Have you ever seen a Tesla commercial? Neither have I. And about 10 to 15% of revenue for most companies is spent on sales and marketing. Tesla doesn't have to spend any money on that. Why? Because Elon is controversial through his marketing. And I think we can be the same way as well. And that's the exact tactic I pulled when I sent that message to all those journalists. I can even say that, you know, with Harvard Business School, HBS, 2/3 of HBS is BS. Or is that Haroun Business School? I don't know. Okay. The bottom line is be controversial. Okay. That was me rambling. That was my crutch. Okay. And then Rajesh wrote, hey, Chris, weekly attendance here. Great to see you. Thank you. Okay. Amelia wrote, what is the best 3 fund asset allocation portfolio? Yeah. Oh, that's tough. That's tough. I wouldn't want to pick just 3 because that's not diversified enough. But definitely what would be part of that would be the ticker VOO, the S&P 500. And I think the S&P 500 is the best investment you can make in the stock market in the world, because the very last company, so to speak, to go bankrupt would be the U.S. government. Yeah. In terms of other asset allocation, I'd recommend low-risk bonds, as well as some commodities as well. And of course, that's outside of your real estate investment, which is the most important investment you'll ever make, is your own house. Yeah. Okay. And I'm adding actually to my MBA curriculum a very, very big real estate elective that will be released this fall. Anybody that has or will sign up for my MBA product will get that for free, as with all my other courses. Yeah. Okay. All right. Oh, Luca, how are you? Luca, speaking of Luca Innocent, Luca, congratulations on Times Square and that amazing video of you right in Times Square. And thank you so much for mentioning me as well in that. God bless you. I love you, brother. And my whole family misses you as well. So Luca is my brother from another mother. He's really tall. I'm about 6 feet. He's like 6 foot a million. And I created a number of courses with Luca. One of them is called the Complete Python course. And there's a 900 book version included in the course. He's an AI expert. Another one is an artificial intelligence course. This is the book that goes along with that as well. He spent a couple months here in San Francisco Bay Area with my family. He is my brother. I miss you. Thank you. And then Luca started out as a platinum student as well. Yeah, and he wrote, go with the platinum product if you can. Trust me, it's worth every penny. Thank you. And God bless you. I appreciate it. Yeah. And I hope your home renovation is going well, brother. Yeah. Okay. And if anybody wants, if you guys work at a company and you want to get advice on how to use AI to take your company to the next level, please do a search on Luca Innocent on LinkedIn. And I'm going to spell his last name. That's Anicin. He has a company called Data Blues, and he can help to turn your company around or make it more efficient leveraging AI. Yeah. And actually, Google engineers refer to him as one of the top 100 or so AI experts on the planet, and Oxford University as well. Anyway, yeah, that's why he was in Times Square. Yeah. And I'm honored just to know you. Thanks, bro. Okay. Next up, and then Luca is going to be launching a weekly webcast on AI. And so what I'll be doing is I'll start mentioning that in the next couple of weeks or so you can all join. Yeah. Even if it's at the same time as my call. Okay. Give me 1 second. All right, next up, Tanuj wrote, I'm new to finance and I want to learn. What are the best sources to easily understand and learn finance from scratch to advanced? Please, can you tell me the best sources to learn finance from basic to advanced? Yeah. So everything I teach you in my MBA program, I use props. Okay. And it's the easiest way to learn finance and accounting. You know, when I teach you the balance sheet, I teach you using props. That's James Bond over there. Okay. And that's Boba Fett for some reason. And a James Bond car, an Aston Martin. But I use a lot of props to teach it. I make it visual and fun and engaging, and I do not teach based on theory. I teach based on my real-life practical experience. Yeah. Now, if you want to learn finance from a high-level perspective and how the world works, then a way to do it and work smarter, not harder, is every morning when you're getting ready, do this. This is what I do. Alexa, what's the Wall Street Journal news? Alexa, what's the Wall Street Journal news?
From the Wall Street Journal.
This episode
Alexa,
is brought to you.
Stop. So it's like 5 or 10 minutes. It gives you all the high-level highlights from global finance, and it's practical too. It's not theoretical. Yeah. And McGraw-Hill contacted me about 2 years ago to write the quintessential book on finance and accounting, and it's coming out this April. Yeah. Thank you, McGraw-Hill. All right, next up, Devon wrote, what are diluted shares? What is the difference between shares outstanding and diluted shares? Yeah, so diluted shares means if the company converted all shares that they want to eventually convert into shares. So for example, if the company issues a lot of stock options that investors or that employees have not cashed in yet, meaning they have invested, that would be included in diluted shares. What would also be included is if the company has convertible debt that converts into equity. And a lot of people, by the way, what they do to raise money is they'll issue debt, right? That maybe they have to pay 7 or 8% per year in interest. And then at some point that converts, like convertible car, into equity. And so that's included as well in diluted shares. Yeah. And to be conservative, when you're creating a financial model and you're forecasting what your earnings per share are going to be, always use dilutive. Yeah. And only look at non-GAAP accounting financial statements. I can go there if you want me to. I explain it in my MBA program in a lot of detail. Okay, Phil Germany, who's my first student ever to publish a book using my book template. And the name of his book, he released it in 2018, I think. It's called Super Students, and it was about chess. How prophetic. Super Students. So Phil wrote, I think before you said currently you have no employees working for you. Is that correct? If so, why not? Thanks. Yeah. So I run a very high margin product. I outsource everything. I have an S corporation setup, which is the most tax efficient setup you can have for a company. Talk to a real lawyer though, not me. And I outsource everything. So I have tons of contractors all over the world. Yeah. And with the help of Luca Anderson, what I've done is I've replaced a lot of my expense items with AI. It's incredible. And we all have to embrace AI. Yeah. And I think eventually we're going to be able to use, like within a year or two, we're going to be able to use AI to be taught by avatars, including myself. And yes, I am beta testing this right now as well. Yeah. Okay. And when I teach people to start companies in the venture capital bootcamp part of my MBA degree program, what I do is I teach you how to start companies with no expenses. And I never want you to use your own money ever. I want you to use OPM, other people's money, meaning equity, not debt. And I teach you how to start a company using AI and the stuff I learned from Luca as well, so that your expenses are zero and you have no full-time employees. Yeah. But I have a lot of contractors that help, and they're great. Yeah. Okay. And then Devon wrote, apologies, Chris. No, all good. I was asking that how do mergers can help unlock company, please? Yeah. Yeah. Well, it could get, so when one company buys another, what happens usually is if the deal is accretive, I mean, if it makes earnings go up and the valuation go down, it's usually because not just overlap, like I mentioned earlier, but they also might have new distribution channels in place. For example, Hewlett-Packard, which used to be the fifth biggest software company in the world. And we used to say Hewlett-Packard is where software companies go to die. Just kidding, sort of. I'm kidding. But HP, what they would do, because they had 60% of revenue overseas, they buy a ton of American software companies that don't have overseas exposure, and they use their distribution channels to sell that product globally. It's kind of like Coca-Cola. When Coca-Cola bought Dasani water, it might have looked like an expensive acquisition, but it wasn't. It was accretive immediately. Why? Because Coca-Cola has distribution channels all over the world, relationships with lots of stores that already sell their product. And so when it bought Dasani water, it could sell that product to different distribution channels as well. Yeah. All right. Next up, Vig wrote, hello, Mr. Haroun. Chris, please. Is the Momo app legit for ETFs? Thanks. I've never heard of it. If you're looking to set up a brokerage account, what I recommend doing for everybody globally, do a search for the 5 largest banks in your country. Call each one up and ask them to transfer you to their brokerage service so you can buy stocks. Then compare the commissions for all 5 and pick the one with the lowest commissions. Yeah. And then Devon wrote, Chris, you're the best. Well, thank you. Thanks a million for all your support. My pleasure. Thanks for being here. I love doing what I'm doing. I love helping people. It's why I do what I do. And when I used to work at big companies like Goldman Sachs, venture capital, hedge funds, whatever, Accenture, during my annual review, it was always really uncomfortable for my boss because they would say, Chris, you're doing a great job. You're a top performer, humbly. Everybody loves working with you, but can you spend a little bit less time mentoring people not in our department? And I just couldn't. I just wanted to help people. In fact, I thought I was clinically depressed because I wasn't doing what I was passionate about. And so when I got a job in consulting, when I got a job at Goldman and other places, my happiest day was always day one. And then it went downhill. And I thought, my God, do I need to go on Prozac? What is wrong with me? And the reason was because I wasn't doing what I'm passionate about. And so in 2015, when I worked in venture capital, I met Tony Robbins, and he invested in one of my portfolio companies. Great guy. He's the real deal, by the way. And he convinced me to follow my passion, just teach. And I've never been happier. And when one teaches, two learn. Yeah. And by the way, if anybody wants to teach online, let me know. I want to help you. It's the best side hustle ever, and anybody can do it. We all have something to teach. Ninja, for example. My kids still play that game, Fortnite, which I can't get into. I've tried. But Ninja started teaching on Udemy on how to use Twitch years ago. His course is still up there. I spoke with this woman, Patricia Greenway, or Teresa Greenway. And she was in this awful marriage, and her husband beat her. It was terrible. And she found the courage to leave that jerk. And I wrote about her in one of my online articles. She found the courage to leave that jerk. And so she was living off food stamps, and she had a couple kids. And she thought to herself, how can I support my family and do what I love doing? And so she started thinking, I love baking bread. How prophetic. And so she created courses on how to bake bread. And she's made a killing because of that. So she teaches on Udemy and other places too. Everybody has something to teach. And again, when one teaches, two learn. And for those of you who haven't found your passion yet in life, right? It took me to my 40s to finally realize that I want to teach. For those of you who haven't found your passion in life, here's how you find it. If I tell you, you get 30 days off starting today, and you can't go to school, you can't go to work, and you can't travel, what are you going to do with your time? Whatever that is your passion, your purpose, your raison d'être, and you do it no matter what. And you don't care what other people think of you as well. Okay. And if you chase money your whole life, you'll lose your money and your dreams. But if you chase your dreams and you don't give a damn what people think of you, and you're not scared to fail, if you chase your dreams, something beautiful happens. Your dreams come true and the money follows accidentally. It always does. But you got to have the persistence to stay in the game long term. Remember, it's a marathon, not a sprint. And just keep in mind that all your competitors will quit, but you won't. This is the long game. You're in it for the long run. Yeah. And as Confucius said, choose a job you love and you'll never have to work a day in your life. It's so true. If you love doing what you're doing, you will be incredibly successful and happier. What are we here for? Okay. All right. Next up, Devon wrote, Chris, I'm enjoying the MBA Gold program. It's so knowledgeable. Thank you. Thank you. And I do apologize for all the awful dad humor in it, but there is a 30-day, 100% money back guarantee. Yeah. And if anybody wants to set up a call with me to discuss joining the MBA program, see if it's a good fit for you or not, just go to harounmba.com, and then there will be a little pop-up in the bottom right-hand corner. Please schedule a Zoom call with me. You can schedule a Zoom call right here. Yeah. I just installed that plugin last night. Yeah. Okay. And then next up, Raj wrote, hey, Chris, hey. I invested in one of your financial analyst courses. Great content. Thank you. What financial statement is the most important for an investor? Yeah, by far, it's the income statement. Now, when companies report earnings, they usually provide two sets of financial statements. GAAP, which accountants love. I don't like GAAP, though, because it lists non-cash stuff like depreciation. And then pro forma, or non-GAAP, which finance people love, like me. Because pro forma financial statements do not include non-cash crap stuff like depreciation. So you want to ideally look at the income statement and forecast that. And it's really easy because you spend most of your time focused on revenue, which is the top line. That's why they say, what's your top line growth? It's the top line of the income statement. So you forecast revenue, and then you make many other items, expense items, a percent of revenue. Yeah, focus on revenue. And if you're in my MBA program, I'm happy to help you with your financial models and teach you as well. Yeah. And never take any advice from anybody on what stocks to buy, including me. I always want you to do your own research, always. And I provide you with all the tools that you need to be able to do your own research or start your own company, etc., in my MBA program. And I think of myself humbly as a waiter, okay? So when you go to a restaurant, you look at the entire menu, right? You don't order everything. You order maybe one or two things. So that's my job, my purpose, my raison d'etre, is to expose all my students to different careers. And whatever you find you're most passionate about, I want you to go after that. You know, don't expect to accomplish your dreams in life unless you help others accomplish theirs first. That's why I do what I do. All right, next up, Phil, Germany, wrote, are stock options considered speculative? If not used the right way, yeah. I don't recommend any of my students use options until you practice options for at least 6 months. And if for those of you in my MBA programs, go to FA44 for a 30-hour elective on options. That's Finance and Accounting Semester 4, Class 4. So options can be thought of as insurance products, right? So insurance, life insurance, for example, you pay a small relative amount every month. And if, God forbid, something happens to you, you get a big payout, or your family does. I don't have life insurance because I wouldn't see it if I died. You know what I mean? Like, what's the point? Of course, I do have life insurance. Yeah. That's what an option is like. Okay, so it's kind of like insurance on a stock. So a lot of people, let's say you work at a tech company right now, and 99% of your net worth is tied in the stock of the company you work at, and you can't sell it yet for whatever reason. Well, what you could do is you could buy what's called a put option. And a put option, basically, you pay this much, and if the stock goes down, this goes up a lot. If the stock goes up, this goes to zero. All you lose is this. A call is the opposite of a put option. A call is you pay a small amount. If the stock goes up in a certain amount of time, you can make a fortune, but all you lose is this. Now, I don't want anybody to underwrite or sell options, meaning puts or calls, because you can literally lose hundreds of times the amount of money that you sold, okay? And it's really complicated. Happy to go through in a lot more detail if you want. All right, but I think buying puts is much better than buying a put is better than shorting a stock. So, and I'll give you a real life example. In January of 2021, GameStop, ticker GME, went up 29.4 times in 1 month. And so people that were short, like Melvin Capital, it was a $2 billion hedge fund that doesn't exist anymore. People that were short GameStop lost everything because the stock went up a lot. You know, if they just bought a put, they would be much better off because all they would lose is whatever they spent on the put. Yeah. Okay. And then Jose wrote, thank you for the answer, Chris. Of course, brother. You wrote, so with the IRA, I won't be able to take any gain before 60, right? Unless I pay taxes owed. Do you happen to know the restriction to take gains out? Tell you what, today, during the Gold and Platinum office hours, it starts at 11:20 over Zoom. Ask me that question again, and I'll run upstairs and ask Christine, my wife, which company we use to set up the IRA, and I'll introduce you to them if you want. Yeah. Okay. All right. And Luca wrote, I meant the diamond tier in the previous message. Oh, thank you. That's right. My new product. Yeah. Thank you. God bless you, brother. You're too tall, though, brother. Like Luca's like this tall. And whenever we got into fights, which was never, he'd say, don't make me come down there, Haroun. I'm just kidding. Love you, man. All right, next up, Manas. How are you? Manas from India, who wrote, good morning, my dear mentor. Good to see you, Chris, please. What a day. You're a great teacher, like one who is made to teach dumb people like me, made by gods who love and care. Thank you for everything. You've changed uncountable lives. God bless you. Thank you. I do what I do because I love it. And I'm grateful to all of you. And the way to get into a peak mental state and happy every day and productive every day is you do the following. Every day when I get up, I thank God for 10 things in this order. Andrew, Matthew, Dylan, Christine, my wife, my mom, my dad, my brother, Jamie, my sisters, Elizabeth and Katie, and all of you, my students. I'm grateful. Thank you. Let's focus on enjoying what we have instead of focusing on acquiring more stuff. Yeah. Okay. All right. And then Jordan, hey, Jordan. Jordan wrote step 1 to 68. Can you give, and if you're talking about this spreadsheet, let me know, right? So this is one of the many templates in the MBA program where I have 100 steps to help you pick stocks, right? And actually, I asked you 700 or 800 questions. And on every single tab, if you're ever stuck, always click in row 21 on this YouTube video. I explain the tab in more detail in terms of valuing the company, etc. And the outputs from this are 3 things. Number 1, based on what you enter in, this is all dummy data here, but there's a ton of charts are created for you to help you understand the company you're doing investment research on. Number 2 is a 1-page executive summary. This is dummy data again, which you can print out and put on the back of your resume, take to interviews, and then a detailed report as well. So if you're referring to steps 1 to 68 here, let me know, please. Okay. Okay. Next up, Emilio wrote, what do you think of Rose 2.0? It's like Excel with AI without inputting formulas. I don't know about that, but Luca, if you're still on, let me know. Yeah. In fact, Luca, if you want to do Zoom right now to answer questions, let me know as well. Again, Luca is going to be launching his own weekly webcast on AI. And if it's the same time as my weekly webcast, don't watch my webcast. Yeah. Okay. Next up, Manas wrote, let's begin this week, my mentor. Chinese stocks are down 30% year over year. It's crazy. And by the way, yeah. So Chinese exports, I think it was low single digits in December, but last month it was 7%, right? So I think you'll start to see a rebound there. Yeah. And also what's happening is asset reallocation in Asia. So a lot of people that invest internationally in Asia, what they're doing is they're buying Japanese stocks instead of Chinese stocks. And the reason is because valuation on Japanese stocks is very, very low. You know, Warren Buffett and value investors love Japan now. And Japan finally reached an all-time high, surpassing the high that the Nikkei reached around 1990. Yeah. And geopolitically, it's a safer place to invest. Okay. And then he wrote, by the way, Tesla will bring their first commercial this year, maybe Elon informed. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. And I think Elon has his heart. I know he's very controversial, but I think he has his heart in the right place in terms of his outlook on AI. I really do. And you've all seen the news that 2 weeks ago or so, he sued, Sam Altman and ChatGPT. And we still don't know why Sam Altman was fired temporarily by the board. But I think it might have to do with the fact that he put profitability ahead of other goals. Yeah. And that's probably why Elon is suing him. But I do think that Elon has his heart in the right place in terms of helping society when it comes to, creating environmentally friendly products, whether it's solar panels at Solar City or Tesla, et cetera. And the same thing when it comes to AI. He wants to get ahead of it. It's not just profit for him. It never has been about the money. It's about doing the ethical thing when it comes to AI. And that's why he wants to create Tesla robots as well. He wants to be first to market, to have first mover advantage. And Warren Buffett, recently said, once you open AI's Pandora's box, there's no turning back. So I am fearful that AI might be getting too much autonomy. Look what's happened with Sora just in the past 2 weeks. For those of you who haven't heard of Sora, it's a new OpenAI product that's only in beta testing mode right now, where you can create videos by typing a couple sentences, which look perfect, except for the hands. I can't get the hands perfect for some reason. And Hollywood and every industry is terrified of this. I'm going to embrace it and use it in my business model big time. But even Tyler Perry, he was supposed to build like $1 billion, new studio in Atlanta. And he scrapped plans for that the second that Sora came out. It changes everything. Everything. It's scary. Yeah. And I think there's going to be a lot more deep fakes. Like somebody's going to create a persona of me. And I've seen deep fakes too of Warren Buffett trying to pitch cryptocurrency stock, cryptocurrency investments, which he would never do, right, on TikTok. It is frightening. And Luca and I actually, as part of our business and our partnership, we presented to a bunch of companies on our thoughts on AI, including Dell and Workday. And I'm presenting soon to Marvell. And these companies are absolutely terrified. Every company is terrified about the implications of AI, if not done correctly, to the extent that a lot of companies now have CAIE positions, Chief Artificial Intelligence Executive. And a lot of governments are doing that as well. And I think within a year, all major governments and companies will have AI ethics C-level positions. And I think Europe is going to lead us, as they always do. And I love Europe for that, especially when it comes to privacy mandates. Yeah. All right. All right. And Devon wrote, as China 50 is down 70% from an all-time high, what is the best metric to look at if we want to invest in an index? Is it PE or CAPE ratio good to look at? Yeah, I like PE. I do. It's hard to really do due diligence on an entire index, though. I prefer to do due diligence on individual companies. So let's say there's a certain ETF that you invest in, right? Maybe it's the SMH, which is the Merrill Lynch, or B of A Merrill Lynch, I should say, a semiconductor index. Instead of buying that index, you might want to look at what are the top 10 components, aside from NVIDIA, which is already too high now. And then you can roll up your sleeves and start doing due diligence on smaller companies like AMD, et cetera, or Intel. I can't believe Intel is smaller than NVIDIA. It's surreal, man. Yeah. And the way you can do your due diligence on those stocks to see if they're undervalued is you use the tools I provide you in my MBA degree program. I showed you one of them a couple minutes ago. And you come up with what your earnings estimates are going to be in 5 or 10 years. Then you value the company based on your earnings estimate in 5 or 10 years. Yeah. And that way you don't have to worry about volatility. You can tell yourself, I don't know the path, but I know the destination of the stock when it comes to the target price. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. And then Vic wrote, hey, Chris, hope all's well, likewise. What are your thoughts on a presidential election in the United States on the stock market? Thanks. Yeah. Ooh, I want to get political. Okay, I'm going to answer this generically. So, on the political spectrum, you've got right wing and left wing. Okay, right wing usually means whoever gets elected wants low taxes and smaller government. More left-wing, relatively speaking, means higher taxes and more government. So, if taxes are lower, then that is better for the stock market. So usually on a political spectrum, whatever is more towards the right is better for the markets, and whatever is more towards the left is bad for the markets. Yeah, that's all I'll say. All right. All right. Yeah. And then Gold Sand wrote, are you planning on adding a course in Udemy besides your website? Yeah. Udemy is a great partner of mine. Yeah. And Luca and I actually, we have a bunch of courses we've created together on Udemy. And by the way, if you want to learn just tech in general, take Luca's courses on Udemy. He's great. That's how I learn. Okay. Next up, Manos wrote, the Indian government has issued a certificate that is needed to deploy AI or AI services. If not, you're not allowed. Will regulation unnecessary like this destroy AI innovation in a country? It could. Too much regulation is usually bad for R&D. Yeah. But I think that we need to have some regulation of AI, because I promise you, before the end of this year, people there's going to be deep fakes about them. People that are 1 or 2 degrees separation away from you because of Sora. Yeah. Okay, Ingrid, who's in my Platinum MBA, the class that started January 29th, wrote, hello, everyone. What's Luca's YouTube page so I can follow? Yeah, I don't know what his YouTube page is, but you can go to LinkedIn and follow him there. So Luca, it's Luka. Last name is Anicin, Anicin. Yeah. Just think of Star Wars, like Luke and Anakin. Yeah. Okay, next up, Manos wrote, JP Morgan says an AI software they use is worth replacing 9 of 10 analysts, probably entry-level experience. That is strange. What are your thoughts? Yeah. Maybe in a certain department like customer service, but on my weekly webcast, I interviewed the #1 software and internet analyst on the planet last fall named Brent Thill. And during that webcast, I asked him, and he knows all about AI. He's a genius. I said, so how are you using AI with equity research at your firm? And he said, we're not. And I said, why? He said, well, because of hallucinations, right? Because AI products are confidently right, and you always have to question the data. It's not there yet. And there's always the worry that maybe a junior employee, like he alluded to, might rely on AI too much to mislead investors. Yeah. So I don't think that JP Morgan is referring to all analyst jobs at their company, just a specific department. Yeah. Okay. Hey, John. All right, next up, Manos wrote, what makes a startup successful or unsuccessful? I remember reading Peter Lynch's book that the more economical a business is, the better to invest, simple and efficient. Do you have a belief system? Yeah. So Peter Lynch, I'll show you his book. So Peter Lynch's brilliance is he worked at the Magellan Fund, which is probably the best mutual fund in history back in the 90s and 80s at Fidelity. And you should read this book called One Up on Wall Street. And the crux of this book is basically invest in what you understand. And that might be what he's referring to as simplicity. Invest in what you understand. And he gives plenty of examples in this book. One example being that his wife loved this new pantyhose product that came in, I don't know if you remember, it came in the shape of an egg. And tried the product, etc. They invested, made a fortune. That's right. That's a simplistic example. And I remember that the egg shaped thing because my mom used to buy those and I used to use that to store my Smurfs in it. Strumpf. Yeah. So invest in what you understand from a simplistic perspective. Okay. And then Manos wrote, Sam Altman, who's the head of OpenAI, he used to be the president of Y Combinator, and he can sell. Yeah. Sam Altman has a crypto project called WorldCoin WLD. Its cap is $1 billion right now. It scans people's eyeballs and pays them 25 tokens. Is it worth time owing Sam as the CEO? Yeah. Well, that's scary, man. That reminds me a lot of Minority Report. I don't know if you guys have seen this movie. I have a couple props in here. So this movie was groundbreaking. It had a prophetic impact on Silicon Valley from an R&D perspective. And in this movie, Tom Cruise, 2002 gem made by Steven Spielberg, he's walking in the subway and his eyes get scanned. And based on the scans, he sees certain commercials. Yeah. And Hollywood has a massive impact on Silicon Valley. And we call Hollywood dreampreneurs. They create this cool technology in movies, and then a decade or later or so, it becomes reality. Like that movie called Her with Joaquin Phoenix and Scarlett Johansson. It's now reality because the operating system is virtual. ALEXA, SIRI, etc. You can't see, feel, or touch them. But I love this movie. It's great. Yeah. But it's scary how fast things are changing, man. Yeah. And then Manos wrote, thank you for everything, my mentor. God bless you all forever and ever and ever. See you next week and forever. God bless your family. Love to Ruby. My cat, thank you. You wrote, please post an image of her. Thanks. Yeah. Actually, in my MBA degree program, in the 3rd semester in a sales marketing communication lesson, I have her as a cat when I'm teaching how to use social media stuff. Yeah. Thank you and God bless you. Thank you for the emojis. Okay. Next up, Emilio wrote, will you do a YouTube review on CLICKABLE, a French film? Maybe, yeah. So what I've been doing is, it's really fun for me. I edit my own videos, I do all my editing myself. And when you love doing what you're doing, you're really productive, and I humbly am. So what I'm doing now is I'm going through Billions. And so every Friday at 9 a.m. I drop my new vlog on Billions. And what I can do is I can share one with you in a couple of minutes if you want. where I talk about how Bobby Axelrod made a killing on 9/11 and how corrupt people made money before 9/11. And I'll show you that in a couple of minutes. Yeah. Okay. All right. Next up, Zaid wrote, hey, Chris, hey, if I want to start a business, then should I use my own money to start it or not? If not, how do I raise capital? Yeah, and this is something we cover in the MBA degree program in a lot of detail. Yeah, so never start a company until you've written a full business plan. And it's a cliche, but failing to plan is planning to fail. And the way you know you have a good business plan is if you finish the business model, relatively speaking, a good business plan. And if you start working on the business plan, and I'll show you the template I use in my MBA degree program for the business plan. See if I can find it here. Here it is here, VC Bootcamp. Yeah. So I walk you through VC Bootcamp. And what comes out of this in my MBA degree program are two things, a business plan and then presentation slides are automatically created for you and a one-page executive summary as well. Yeah. But yeah, if you start working on the business plan and answer the 800 or so questions I ask you as part of the Venture Capital Bootcamp and the MBA program, if you answer 20 or 30 questions, you're like, dude, I don't really like this business anymore. Then stop working on it. Move on to something else. Because if you launch a business when you're not ready, it can destroy your net worth, of course. It can destroy your health and your relationships with your loved ones. What's more important than that? So always write the business plan first. And my MBA program, I provide you with a ton of templates to help you work smarter and not harder. Yeah. In terms of capital, don't ever get a bank loan. And the reason I say that is because banks are chicken. And if you pay back, if you're 1 day late on a debt payment, they can take everything. I hate loans. Yeah, never do it for a business. So what do you do then? Well, don't use your own money. Always use other people's money. Okay. And what I mean by that is get high net worth investors to invest as seed investors. Don't go after venture capital firms. And I've raised and managed over $1 billion in my career. I've made every mistake there is to make. What you want to do is you want to talk to high net worth investors. Step 1, have an amazing LinkedIn profile. Step 2, learn how to sell and network. Step 3, reach out to these high net worth investors to pitch those 10 slides in your business plan. Rinse, lather, repeat. You will raise money. But there's a lot of work behind that. Join my MBA program, and I'm happy to help you do it. Yeah. Okay. And I keep my expenses insanely low. I mentioned before, I don't have employees. I don't. I have a lot of contractors. And I use a lot of technology as well, AI especially, with the help of Luca, to streamline my business operations. Yeah. And that's how I teach you to start your companies too. Yeah. Yeah. And then Jordan wrote regarding a business plan course on Udemy. Yeah, I'm not familiar with exactly what you're asking. Best to ask it in the course. Yeah, thank you. Okay. Next up, MTI, who's in my gold or platinum program that started January 29th of this year, wrote, Elon said that if OpenAI changes the name to Close AI, he will drop the case against OpenAI. This is free publicity for him, as always. Controversy works. As long as it's tasteful. Michael, how are you? Dr. Michael, you wrote, it was great to see you and get dinner last Friday. Great to see you, brother. So Dr. Michael Nunez was in my platinum program a couple of years ago, the Wednesday session. And I was in Phoenix last Friday and Saturday attending a conference. And I had dinner with him. Yeah, it was great sushi too. And thanks for letting me eat all your fries. Great to see you, brother. I love you, man. Christina, how are you? Christina is our fearless leader. She was the head of the alumni division. She's a good friend. She and her husband, Christian, took my platinum program a couple of years ago. She's wonderful. She's here in the Bay Area. And quite often, I go with her family and we go to eat dosa at my favorite Indian restaurants. So Christina wrote, good morning, Professor Chris, amazing global MBA alumni and weekly office hours participants. Hope you're having an outstanding week so far. Love the presentation tips today. Excellent. God bless you. Thank you. Thank you. And I know that we usually compete with water, and I'm so behind schedule. It's 9:30. I'm at the 7:30 level. I got to catch up. I know you're probably halfway down today. Everybody join us. Get one of these water bottles on Amazon. It's got the time on the side. It'll make you healthier. Even if you only finish half of it. As James Cameron, great director from Canada, said, if you set your goal so high and you fail, you still fail above everyone else's expectations. Yeah. But I need to get to a lower water level here. Yeah, great to see you. Okay, Sanjay wrote, hey, Chris, how are you doing? Always great, thanks. Good to see you. I'm trying to stay centered here. There we go. Okay. All right. MTI wrote, hey, Chris, Alexa, don't you do it. She wanted to come on. Okay. Alexa considered standard AI or Gen AI prior to 2020. Different people have different answers. What are your thoughts? I would say standard. It's not that advanced compared to using ChatGPT. What I have actually is on my iPhone. It's over here. I'm not going to touch it. I've got the screw it. I've got the ChatGPT app on it. Let me see here. I can't find my phone. That never happens. It's here somewhere. But anyway, oh, here it is. Here I found it. Okay. I've got here too many props, guys. On here, what I've got is the ChatGPT app. And this is powerful. This allows you to do voice-based queries, right? So you can ask any questions you want to. Okay, I have to sign in here, confirm. You can ask any questions you want to. So I was in Hawaii actually over the Christmas break, and I had my earphones on, and I was walking, and I was asking ChatGPT questions. It was amazing. I was having a conversation with ChatGPT. I remember I asked questions like, when is GTA 6 coming out? Tell me about GTA 6, yada, yada, yada. I had a great... And by the way, when GTA 6 comes out next year in 2025, I publicly disclose this, but I'm not coming to these weekly webcasts for at least a month. I'm going to be playing 24/7. Okay. Okay, and then give me 1 second. Elijah wrote, hi, Chris, hey. Between becoming a corporate finance analyst and investment banker, which is better? Yeah. Oh, it all depends what you want to do. If people are confused in your career and you're not sure what to do, then what I recommend doing is start off with what's called an origination job, where you create the product. And if you don't like creating the product, you can then move on to, I don't know, selling the product, managing people in the product, etc. So within finance, if you're not sure what to do, but you think you like finance, maybe consider investment banking. Because investment banking, what you do is you create the product, like the IPO product, for example, the S1 document. And if you hate creating the product, hey man, move on to selling the product or trading the product or investing in the product in finance. The same thing with technology. You think you want to work in the tech sector, you're not sure. Become a developer. If you hate programming, but you love tech, then after being a developer or programmer or whatever for a couple of years, you know how to originate the product. So you can move on to selling the product, working in business development, whatever. The same thing with consulting. You're not sure what to do. And this is what I did coming out of undergrad. Go into consulting, work at McKinsey or something, right? Where you create the corporate strategy. If you hate creating the corporate strategy, then from an origination perspective, you can move on to sell the corporate strategy, whatever it is. So the bottom line is, if you know how to make a product, then you can easily move on to managing people that work on a product or selling, etc. Yeah. Now, the difference between corporate finance and investment banking, I'm so sorry, is investment banking, you work insanely long hours, right? And a lot of my students want to be bankers, but I want you to always ask yourself, why? Why do you want to be a banker? Because what happens is if you work in investment banking, yeah, you make more money than your buddies do, but you probably make less per hour than they make. And you work 100 hours a week, you sacrifice your health, your relationships, etc. Yeah, it's not easy to do, but it's a good starting point. Now, corporate finance is a little bit different, right? It means, and it's a very generic term. So companies like Amazon don't hire investment bankers as much anymore. They do it all in-house through their corporate finance department. So corporate finance could mean working at a big company and helping them understand which companies to potentially buy. Yeah. And the hours are much less when it comes to corporate finance. Yeah. Versus investment banking. Okay. And then Sanjay, along those lines, wrote, I saw your video on the first 7 financial analysts. Is there a video for the rest of the financial analysts? No, I think you're talking about a YouTube video of mine that explains financial analysts. And for anybody that's confused about what the heck is a financial analyst, what's it like to work in finance, what you can do is just go to my YouTube page. See if this will work here. Okay, I'm going to go to YouTube. Just go to my YouTube page and then go to all my videos. Let me go here. Let's go my channel. And then when you're here, you can actually sort by videos right here. And then go to popular, I guess. Yeah, right here. Here it is here. This video here explains 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 financial analyst roles. Yeah. And in terms of the other roles, I don't have a follow-up video, but my MBA program, I explain everything in a lot more detail. Yeah. All right. Next up, Manas wrote, my mentor, will the big guys like Microsoft or OpenAI or Google create a minority type report type environment as they own everything? It's scary sometimes. It gives me nightmare for real. Yeah. I think Google and Microsoft are ethical. I think what would probably make sense for most companies is to have ethics officers, like I mentioned earlier, CAIE, Chief Artificial Intelligence Executive or Ethics Officer or something. Yeah, it's coming. Yeah, and I think Europe is going to be it's going to lead the way when it comes to government policy on AI. It might be part of GDPR, etc. They'll be the first. Yeah, thank you, Europe. And if it weren't for Europe and Germany, actually, with privacy metrics, then license plates would not be blurred out on Google Maps. Yeah. I think there's going to be a lot more checks and balances in place. Yeah. And I like what India is doing, too, in terms of AI safety net, so to speak. Yeah. All right. Next up, would you include a proof of concept as part of writing the business plan? Yeah. Yeah, I think that having a minimum viable product, or what people call an MVP, is important, so that people can understand, your investors can understand and visualize the product, understand it. It's crucial. And as Reid Hoffman, who's a co-founder of LinkedIn and a general partner now at Greylock, the venture capital firm founded in 1965, what Reid Hoffman said was, if you release your product when it's ready, it's too late. You've missed the market. Now, I remember we partnered, when I worked in venture capital, we partnered with a firm called Kleiner Perkins, a big venture capital firm. And I was at Kleiner's office, and I saw Al Gore there, and I met John Doerr and all that stuff. But I was there, and there's this guy that I introduced myself to there, named Randy Komisar. He's a rock star in BC. And this has to do with the MVP product or proof of concept question you're asking about. So he invested in a company called Nest, a thermostat company, which Google eventually bought for $3 billion. And he made a killing on it. And I asked him, I was like, dude, I didn't say dude. I said, Randy, how did you know to invest in that company? I mean, how amazing was the product when you first met them? And he said, Chris, they didn't have a product. I said, well, what do they have then? He said they had a piece of wood. And they said, this is what the product might look like. And I was like, well, why did you invest? He said, because I was blown away by the management team. They were passionate about what they were doing. They could sell. Their rock star engineers. And so the bottom line is, yes, have a proof of concept. It doesn't have to be perfect, though. And in the venture capital industry, we'd always rather invest in an A management team with a B business model instead of investing in a B management team with an A business model. Yeah. Okay. All right. And Sanjay Bhatt wrote, I was also reading that the amount of people living on benefits have nearly tripled than that of senior citizens, and it's bound to grow much more in the USA. If so, won't it affect the economy? Yeah. I'm not that worried about the United States when it comes to demographics. I'm more worried about Japan. Now, I love Japan, but the problem in Japan right now is that you've got a population of 130 million people, but people are not having children as much as they used to. And in several decades from now, in our lifetime, the population of Japan is going to go from 130 million down to 80 million. It's terrifying. Okay. All right, next up, Manas wrote, what's the best case scenario and worst case scenario for AI? Will one country or one region like America or China dominate us, or will it be decentralized later? Yeah. I think the United States is going to have a dominant position longer term. And I think the crown jewel is going to be the semiconductor market, right? And there's been a lot of, I don't know if I want to go there, but there are rules about exporting semiconductors to certain countries now. And I think the United States is going to continue to dominate. And I think we're going to start to see a lot more IPOs when it comes to semiconductors. We haven't had a notable IPO since ARM in the semiconductor sector, a British semiconductor company. I think there's going to be a ton of IPOs in semiconductors in the next couple of years. Really, really early stage companies that will compete with NVIDIA. And I hope NVIDIA finds competition because competition is a good thing for the consumer. And even Google is creating their own chips now, kind of like what Apple did years ago with the A product line. Google actually invented what's called a TPU, which is a different kind of chip, it helps for graphics intensive AI purposes. Yeah. I hope they open source that. I think they might, if they haven't already. Yeah. Worst case scenario is it becomes a police society, like Orwellian. But I think there's enough checks and balances in place globally to stop that from happening. Yeah. I'm more of an optimist. Yolanda from Texas, right? Yeah, you were my MBA class in 2019. Great to see you. You wrote here, I showed up late, so I'll catch up on what I missed. Great to see you. You wrote, I finally have time to study your AI course. Does the course cover multiple apps such as Bard, ChatGPT, and others? Yes, absolutely. And Bard was just renamed to Gemini. Yeah. So what you can do, and this goes for all silver, gold, platinum, and now diamond MBA students. If you go to the very last lecture of your curriculum, you'll be able to access all the electives for free. And I had tons of new ones. For example, the real estate elective, which is going to be exclusive to my MBA students, is going to be added by this fall. Yeah, we cover everything, right? We cover ChatGPT, okay, and with the help from Luca, who's my AI mentor and good friend and brother. We cover ChatGPT. We cover Gemini, formerly called Bard. We also cover Bing Chat, and then we cover Claude. Claude is amazing. Doesn't work in all countries yet, but Claude was founded by a couple of former executives at OpenAI, and Claude is what I use to upload 5 or so annual reports and then ask to pull out the financial statements from each. It's pretty cool. Okay. And I added an elective recently to the last lecture of all MBA programs, which helps you use AI to do investment research. All right. Manas wrote, you live in Silicon Valley. What's the trend there with AI? Like what type of startup or ideas are they looking for and what to scale? Yeah. So a lot of companies have rebranded themselves as an AI company in the past year for obvious reasons. I think a lot of people see through it. There's tons of software companies that do it. A lot of companies will build their product on top of OpenAI, meaning on top of ChatGPT. There's tons of them. Yeah. If you want to keep up to date on what the best companies are on the planet for AI, I'm going to go right to the source and show you. So let's go together to Sequoia's website. Okay, so Sequoia is the top venture capital firm in history. And Sequoia, you'll see here, they're smart. What they do is they focus on the founder and less so the company, the person, right? They get it. Ideas are commodities, but execution is not. And Sequoia is so good that 5% of their investments become unicorns, meaning companies with $1 billion market capitalization. That's as opposed to the other top 10 VC firms that have 1%. It's ridiculous. I've never seen any company dominate like Sequoia has. Now, how can we get information from Sequoia on generative AI? So give me 1 second. I'm going to get the link for you. Sequoia. This is going to save you a lot of time. Here it is here. Okay. So they have got on their website, just do a search for generative AI, Sequoia's website. If you scroll down, you're going to see the generative AI market map. And this here will tell you what the most important companies are in every sector and subsector within AI. There's so many of them we haven't heard of. It's a brand new market. There are companies that are not pure plays, of course, like TikTok or Insta, but there's others like Glean and Cohere. And Glean will allow you to, create Google using AI on your intranet, your internal internet. It'll be able to search Slack, Dropbox, etc. So these are all the products here for every single sector. They update this often. Bookmark this page, please. Yeah, so they have to update that to Gemini. And then if you're a real techie like Luca, and I try to be a techie too, I love programming, but you can scroll down and find out what techie apps to use as well, like Hugging Face, etc. Yeah, like that adorable dog bark. Yeah. All right. Okay, but Manas, I really do believe that there's going to be a ton, and those are the companies, by the way, you can look at that eventually might become big IPOs, those software companies. But I do believe that we're going to see a wave of semiconductor IPOs for the first time in ages. Yeah. The reason there's not that many semiconductor IPOs is because it's very CapEx intensive. Yeah, like this here is an Intel chip. You have to build a multi-billion-dollar fab, etc. All right, Christina wrote, cheers, Chris. I'm bad. I only drank a large hot milk tea drink so far this morning. I'll try to join the Gold Platinum office hours next Thursday since I'm going to PTA Founders Day luncheon today. Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, we should talk about Diamond too. I'd love to ask you about corporate strategy and stuff because you're smart. Okay, next up, Amelia wrote, do you think that because there are unknown concerns in the future, a business executive summary is preferable in the short term rather than a business plan? No. I would write a full business plan. A full business plan. You need to be really, really thorough so you could save yourself the heartache of starting a company when it might not be the best business model. You can always have a one-page executive summary to bring to your investor meetings or your investor slides. Yeah. But I would be thorough. Yeah. Okay. And then Sanjay wrote, what is the safest way to invest $100,000 for the maximum return in the USA? Yeah. Yeah. I provide you all the tools to do your own investment research. But if I had $100,000 and if I didn't know where to put it, and I'm, by the way, I'm buying more real estate. We just put an offer in a place in Florida. We own a bunch of places in Ontario we bought recently. And my real estate course coming out for my MBA students this follows me based on investing in real estate. Yeah. I would make sure you buy your house first with that $100,000 or your apartment. Otherwise you're flushing money down the toilet with rent. But I would probably, for me, and do your own research, I buy the VOO, ticker VOO. Yeah. I don't know where it's going to be next year or the year after, but I promise you, it's going to go up on average 15% every year. There'll be down years and up years. Put it away in your retirement account. Don't look at it. And Warren Buffett, before he invests in any company like Coca-Cola, which he's owned since the 80s, he always tells himself, I'm assuming after I buy this stock that the markets are going to be closed for 10 years. Obviously, he knows the market's not going to be closed for 10 years. But you have to be long-term focused like that. And that way you can ignore the moronic volatility as well. Yeah. And there's a reason why we can't name any successful day traders in the long run because they don't exist. You have to be long-term focused. The longer the view, the wiser the intention. Okay. Next up, Manas wrote, my mentor, sorry to say this, but this week I was in a meeting where the CEO showed software that's replacing financial analyst jobs. It works and investors are crazy. He's raised $7 million as a seed. Yeah, a ton of companies are raising capital right now for AI. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It'll definitely help. But I don't think that big banks are going to buy those products yet. They'll certainly beta test them in their sandboxes. And one reason they'll beta test them is not just to help them be more efficient, but more importantly, if they think it's going to be a hot IPO, if they beta test it and they become a paying customer, from a proof of concept perspective, they can do the IPO. It's just the way it works. Okay. And then Manas wrote, talking of Orwell 1984, I have that book. And also in China, the same policing is done at every traffic point and turn the camera scans images and give them a social score for a real crazy world. Yeah. Yeah. I think it's maybe half the country now. When it comes to facial recognition, cameras can detect where people are and stuff. Yeah. I'm more of a libertarian. I don't like that stuff. Yeah. And then, but I got to say, one interesting thing that's come out of that with facial recognition is child abductions. They've solved a lot of crimes in China because of that, including one person that was abducted. It's a tragic story. 20 or 30 years ago, they used AI, generative AI, and facial recognition to find that person. All right. MTI wrote Claude 3, recently surpassed ChatGPT, a recent comparison done showed, And that's what we need. We need competition. Competition is a good thing for the consumer. God forbid one company dominates. And we're seeing with Apple as well. Apple dominates with their own Apple store, obviously, and it's not fair to companies like Fortnite or others. And what Apple has done, you probably noticed that with iOS, innovation has died. Like, remember when the iPhone first came out and there's a cool new app you try every week? It's died. There's no innovation because Apple basically, what they'll do is they will give you a free offer for $5 a month to sign up to their gaming service. And then they'll force those upon you. You can't even, it's so hard to find the top 10 apps. It's not fair. And so what's happening is antitrust departments globally are coming after Apple. And it's going to change very, very soon. Yeah. Google's done a better job at it. But I think Google's done a better job at it because they really want Chrome to be the default browser on iOS, or at least allow you to choose, which you can sort of do now. Yeah. Competition's a good thing for the consumer. Okay. And at Manos, I've not tried that product yet. And then Booksham wrote, what's the best way to catch up with the micro and macro economy for news updates? I would say that the Wall Street Journal podcast I mentioned earlier, or what you can do is you can read the Financial Times. Go to ft.com. The Financial Times is kind of like the Wall Street Journal, but it's more global in nature, kind of like watching the BBC to get American politics, which is what I do. News, it's more neutral, so to speak. And the Financial Times is also great when it comes to macroeconomic stuff. You can read The Economist too if you want, although the font size is -8 million. It'll put you to sleep. Yeah. Okay. And then Renvir wrote, the new way to sell a pen is to say it's supported by AI. Yeah, or it's an NFT. Yeah. Okay. You wrote it's the Google of AI now, Manas. Yeah. Manas wrote, NVIDIA $870 is $1,000 coming. What do you say? Yeah, I've owned it. I went all in, not all in, but I bought a big position. I think it was in November of 2022 when I bought it, or whenever ChatGPT first came out. Yeah, I'll probably be trimming some soon. Yeah. All right, Manas wrote, thank you for patience with so many questions. Thank you for everything. Thank you. I appreciate it, and God bless you. Then you wrote, Google sued $2 billion for antitrust in incognito mode for collecting information in private mode. I haven't used it for years now. I use Brave. Yeah. What I use right now is I use ExpressVPN. I'm going to show you. Give me 1 second. So and I got the idea from Marquise Brownlee, my favorite vlogger. So what I do is, and it's tough to see, maybe if I lower the resolution here, it costs me about, I think it's $10 a month on multiple devices. And what you can do is you can browse from different regions in the world, tons of like all over the world. And one of the reasons I got this, to be intellectually honest, I'm fully transparent, is when I was in Rwanda building our first of many schools. I wanted to watch the All-Star game and the home run contest, which Vladimir Guerrero won. It was last year before or something. And I couldn't access the MLB app, but I could using a VPN. Yeah. All right. And Sanjay wrote, will we see a trillionaire in the next 20 years? Oh, absolutely. Especially as governments keep printing more and more money. The amount of US dollars out there today versus pre-pandemic is up like 40%. So think about that dilution. Absolutely. We will see multiple trillionaires. Yeah. Okay. And Manas wrote, probably the end of questions as I see. So take rest, have fun. Again, your webcast and the HEB family is like temple. I should and would always bow here every Thursday for God bless you. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. And a couple other things I wanted to talk about today. I was going to give my 9/11 story and all that stuff. I think what I'll do is I'll save that for next week. Yeah, I'll save that for next week. Okay, great. Excellent. All right, I'm going to wrap this up. God bless you all. Please check out my courses if you want to at harounmba.com. Book a call with me if you want to learn more about joining Silver, Gold, Platinum, or my new Diamond product offering. Take care. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to end this webcast, which I always do, with a video I license that will change your life. It's an interview with Steve Jobs from the Silicon Valley Historical Association. God bless you. See you next Thursday. Thank you.
When you grow up, you tend to get told that the world is the way it is, and your life is just to live your life inside the world, try not to bash into the walls too much, try to have a nice family life, have fun, save a little money. But life, that's a very limited life. Life can be much broader once you discover one simple fact, and that is everything around you that you call life was made up by people that were no smarter than you. And you can change it. You can influence it. You can build your own things that other people can use. And the minute that you understand that you can poke life and actually something will, if you push in, something will pop out the other side, that you can change it, you can mold it. That's maybe the most important thing, is to shake off this erroneous notion that life is there and you're just going to live in it, versus embrace it, change it, improve it, make your mark upon it. I think that's very important. And however you learn that, once you learn it, you'll want to change life and make it better, because it's kind of messed up in a lot of ways. Once you learn that, you'll never be the same again.
Hi, I'm Chris Haroun, and this MBA degree program is not what you think it is. It's better. This program is more than 25 years of business experience, all rolled into one easy-to-access online program. I've sold over 1 million courses in every single country. I've worked at Goldman Sachs. I have an MBA from Columbia University, and I've worked in the venture capital, hedge fund, and consulting industries. I've also started many companies, and my courses have been featured in Forbes, Business Insider, CNN, and NBC. If you're ready to nail your next interview, get a better job, get a raise, start that business you've always dreamt of, improve the one you currently run, or better manage your personal finances, then this MBA degree program is for you. I can't begin to tell you how comprehensive this program is. It's got everything, including more than 300 hours of on-demand video. I would have to do one of those dramatic opening title crawls from a certain space movie just to show you. And check out all the amazing reviews from students who have already enrolled in this MBA degree program. Last but not least, there is a 30-day, 100% money-back guarantee. And because you can access this program from any device, meaning a desktop computer or a laptop computer or a tablet or even your smartphone, it means you can comfortably fit it into your schedule. Even if you work full-time, it's no problem. So if you're ready to unlock the key to your potential, then I'll see you in class.